So good afternoon, everybody. And I'm delighted to see we've still got a pretty full room. And there's always one thing with going last is you never know how long people are going to last for the whole day. So thank you for staying on to listen to this. And in many ways, a lot of people keep saying to me, this is kind of the moment that you've all been waiting for to find out about the results of the first ever reporting cycle of the Diversity Project Goals and Progress Tool. Now, I believe that if we can see the inputs which can take us to the outputs, and if we can measure and track and monitor the progress of those inputs, we actually have a really big opportunity to achieve our collective ambition of the 5-year goals. And of course, without knowing where we are along that journey, it's very difficult for us to see, 1, what is working well, 2, where can we hands further, but 3, how can we understand where the opportunities are to improve, i.e., where are the gaps? Now, one of the reasons I love being part of the Diversity Project is that we've always taken steps to really hold up the mirror and not hide behind the reality of sometimes statistics which are less, where we want them to be in terms of where they could be. And it's for that reason that I've been, really excited to take on board the sort of task of putting together the framework. And I've got to say it's been a collection of effort from lots of different corners of the Diversity Project, with Jane Welch as well on the Diversity Metrics work stream. So glad I got your surname right there, because I was really worried I was going to get it wrong. And just say thank you as well to all of the diversity data champions across all organisations that have taken time to come on this journey with us. So really excited to be talking to you today about what some of the results are telling us. Now, of course, with any sort of goal or destination, sometimes the journey to get there can seem a little blurry. And of course, if we can't see where we're going, it can really inhibit our efforts and our energy to really get there. And I think a big point for today is that the Diversity Project's 5-year goals are not the one responsibility of one person, nor are they a single responsibility of any one firm. But the real question is, how can we work together to achieve the Diversity Project's 5-year goals? And it's with that spirit that I'm going to be sort of talking to you today. So hopefully this session will last around sort of 10, maybe 15 minutes. If you do want to ask questions, you can do so either at the end or come and collar me when we're all having a drink. But I just wanted to quickly recap on why I think it's important that we do this together. And first of all, what we're aiming to do is to unite and inspire progress across the Diversity Project. Secondly, joining up our approach. I know this is one thing that our chairwoman is very passionate about, is making sure that we join up efforts across the Diversity Project and even have visibility across our own project itself, because there's so much good work that is taking place. To highlight and role model successes, but also to be really honest in knowing where our challenges are and where our opportunities lie, where are the gaps. Without knowing that, we don't really know what the issues are. And finally, to work collaboratively. And we've heard lots of different sort of stories today around how collaborative working is generating new and innovative solutions. And I believe we can apply that exact methodology to achieving the 5-year goals. And it's with all of these 4 things and with all of the effort and energy we have across the Diversity Project which is going to enable us to deliver with impact. And of course, key theme today, inclusion and impact. So, let's see if my little clicker's still working. There we go. So in 2022, the first ever reporting cycle, a staggering 71 members reported, which I think for a first year is an absolutely brilliant effort. So let's put our hands together and clap all those firms that have reported. And the pressure's definitely on now to make sure we try and increase that number next year. I know there's lots of members from talking to Jenny and Adriana who have done a brilliant job in really driving the conversations with members about the tool. I know there's lots of aspiration from firms that haven't quite managed it this year that want to do it next year. But one of the things that we really wanted to do was to start understanding a bit more about the Diversity Project's corporate memory. What is the influence that we can have? What is the size of our membership? How many employees do our members have? What's the average size of the organisations which we represent? And we've got loads more data on this, and it was really difficult actually taking so much data and trying to get it into a few short slides. So I'm not too bad at the job of that, and then Adriana kindly nipped and tucked it a little bit further to get to where we are today. But what I'm going to sort of share with you today is just a snippet, a glimmer of what some of the data points are telling us, and what all Diversity Project members will be able to access in the next couple of months is a much fuller report, and we are going to be consulting with various work streams on this as well. The first diversity dimension that I want to talk about today is gender. And just to sort of recap, these are the 3 goals that the Diversity Project has set. You'll notice one here around closing the gender pay gap, the other around achieving balance in entry-level and emergent-level recruitment, and then making sure as an industry we are working towards that progress of 20% female fund managers across all member firms. So to give you a first sort of insight into where we are, we've seen most organisations that completed the tool this year sign up to 1 or more of the goals, which I think is a really, really good start. We've got 10% of members saying that they're looking to extend the goals that they signed up to and commit to all 3 of them. But I think what this really does, and the question that I was really thinking about this, is that what is the Diversity Project doing to support member firms in understanding the goal? How do we socialise that within organisations? And how do we connect it to why it's important? And this is an area I know that Helena and the gender workstream are going to be focused on for next year, is how do we bring the goals to life and help member firms to talk about them more? So that's definitely an action point for us for the year ahead. The other data sort of points that we looked at was around general data disclosure. And you can see here that the number we've got on the mean salary gap. Someone on an earlier panel actually talked about, it's not just about looking at the 85% who are doing well, but it's actually thinking about the 15% that are not quite there yet. And one of the things that we've got from the reporting here is that we need to be supporting firms to share more best practices around planning for closing the gender pay gap. And also making sure that we're sharing those best practices, because the organisations, or some organisations across the membership, are really exceeding in this place, in this area. And again, that learning can be shared with other Diversity Project members as well. And indeed, of course, that's one of the reasons you are all members, the best practice sharing. And then on actions, a lot of organisations are engaged on DE&I programmes, positive action initiatives, which are designed to help progress gender equality and balance across member firms. On average, the members that reported, there was 5.7 actions that firms were taking. So multiple different programmes and focuses to really try and change the numbers. Really exciting to see the 48% of school leaver and graduate hires were women. If you think about the 50-50 target of the firms that reported, this is a really promising start. And maybe we need to think about how we can up the ante on that particular goal, because it looks like we're sort of there already. So thinking about that, I think, is absolutely key. And moreover, so if we can get women, young women into the industry, how are we going to progress them throughout our organisations to ensure that they can access fund management opportunities, leadership opportunities in equal measure? And this is why programmes like the Pathway programme that we're going to be launching next year is going to be really key to ensuring that we can support and empower talent, progress talent, once we get it into the industry. And a key sort of shout out for today, looking at this question here, we know that, not all members are going to be able to focus on every single goal and every single diversity dimension at once. So our ask of everybody is, have a look at the goals and think about which one you think your priority should be in the year ahead. And that's the theme that you're going to hear from me a lot on. Looking at gender balance, now Helena sort of talked about the Citywire data earlier on, and hopefully I've remembered our conversation from Friday. Around 12% of UK fund managers are women on named accounts. I think it's 6% of funds in the UK are either managed by a woman or an all-female team. So we know that the number of female fund managers is around the 12%. It's up from 11.8% a couple of years ago. And that's why we have to be, I think, really cautious with the next bit of data that I'm going to show you. Because what we actually saw from firms of those reported on the gender balance, which you can see here, is that we have 23% female fund managers. Now, we've set a target as 20%. So to me, that's saying to us, well, we've already smashed that. But actually, no, we have taken a bit of a look at this. And what we need to do is to really define what we mean by the role of a fund manager, named fund manager on account, for the next reporting cycle. I was personally really excited with my LGBT Great hat on to see we have 1% trans and non-binary. There's a little room for improvement, we know. I actually don't know any open trans and non-binary fund managers in the industry. And our community at LGBT Great represents about 10,000 people across the sector. That really tells me something. But really key that we focus on thinking about gender and gender identity in our reporting. Now, the next slide, you've already saw the data point a few seconds ago. Definitely got a dodgy clicker here today. Let's have a look. There we go. So 52% male, 48% female in terms of entry-level talent that's coming into the industry. So it tells me that the focus on programs, amazing programs like Investment 2020, the UpReach program that the Diversity Project is part of as well, are really starting to make an impact in terms of diversifying gender when it comes to entry-level recruitment. Now, the gender pay gap data, I've got a lovely slide here that moves along itself, so these animations are a lot easier for me to manage. But what we can see here is that we've got a sort of mean salary gap of 27.2%. Now, some data that we had in an Excel spreadsheet from a few years ago that Helena had highlighted this a few years ago, 2019, around about 29%. So we think we've got some improvement, but we've got to be cautious because this is the first year that we are developing this baseline. And this is obviously based on more firms, a different data pool sample actually completing the survey. But what we have got is this whopping great big number, which is the gender bonus gap at 61.6%, which I don't know about all you, but that is a huge, huge number. Now, we were started to explore this, and we think actually last year, because it was such an extraordinary bonus year, has skewed the figures. But what's important here is that all of you have helped us to create the baseline. So we look forward to sort of getting more into the data and seeing how we fare next year as well. And this is the last slide on gender. But what I wanted to show you is some of the areas. I said before, the average was 5.7 actions. And what you can see here are the most sort of popular areas. So we can see here there's a really heavy focus on looking at the female talent pipeline, role modelling as well. Organisational role modelling is something that a lot of organisations are doing. We talked a little bit before about policies. So one of the things that did sort of stand out to me is equalising of parent leave policies, making sure we've got the foundations and the basics in. And I actually believe policy is and there'll probably be lots of people in the room that disagree with me, but this is the stuff we can get with quick wins on. How we bring those policies to life as part of our culture is different, but there's definitely some focus around policy that we need to do. I think engagement with the DP gender work stream as well. I think now we've got the pathway programme coming through, I think we're going to start to see a real domino effect as well. But what it tells me here is that we're really good at getting people into the industry, we're really good at talking about it, we're really good at role modelling, but actually what we really need to think about is, one, how we progress the pipeline and how we keep amazing women and also trans and non-binary people in our industry too. So let's move on to race and ethnicity. So Dimple mentioned before that there is one goal for the race and ethnicity workstream. We are in the process of thinking, actually, should we have any more goals? But one thing is very, very clear, is that we do not have enough race and ethnicity data generally across the industry. So I think by having a single focus on this goal really focuses our hearts and our minds. But let's take a look. So we've got 30% of member firms that have said, yes, we're committed to the 90% goal. The stat that we're slightly worried about is the 36% around the number of member firms that don't plan to commit in the next 12 months. But we do know, and this is a point that was made by a wonderful relationship manager, Jenny, that there's lots of smaller organisations where actually race and ethnicity data is actually a risk. Because through giving your race and ethnicity data, it actually enables us to determine who particular employees are. So we know that there's lots more. There's more behind the candelabra, I think, with this, and we are going to get into that detail more. But again, there is a pattern emerging here. We need to support members more to talk about the goals, to equip members with the why it's important, and to help members socialise those in their firms. On data disclosure, we've got a bit of a mixed picture. So 34 members actually reported on this area of the tool only. But what we did see was that those that did report are actually achieving quite a lot of success in race and ethnicity disclosure. So 78% was the average disclosure rate. And remember, we want to get to 90. So I actually thought that was really, really good. And if you think about the 9 members that have already achieved the goal, I mean, I got C in maths at GCSE, but I know if you think about 100 members, that's almost 10%. So I'm really hopeful. Yeah, I'm the one that's talking to you about data. Anyway, I'm much better at with words than numbers. But, I think it says a lot. It tells me those organisations that are collecting race and ethnicity data are doing a really good job. And actually what we therefore need to do is to think about what is making it successful in those firms, and how do we share that? How do we get a bit of that happening over here as well? So we're going to be looking at that. And again, supporting members to collect race and ethnicity data. There's so many great case studies, and the one that I always talk about, I know we've got Tosin in the audience over here from Quilter, but Quilter have done a great job at really pushing the boundaries with data and race and ethnicity data, and the direct interventions that the firm is making is pushing those disclosure rates towards the 90%. So really, really strong. Okay, and then action. So a lot of members focusing on race and ethnicity. Lots of different actions and programs going on. 95% of members reported to have taken multiple actions. And from the data that we've got this year, the most interventions from firms are coming within race and ethnicity, diversity and inclusion. So it's the most focused area for a lot of organisations. Again, we do need to have a look at the 4.8% that they don't plan to take no action in the next 12 months. But what is really clear is that we're great at getting talent into the industry, but actually what we need to see with race and ethnicity is how we're then empowering that talent to move through our talent management life cycle. And again, this is the pattern that really is emerging. And again, which of these requires the most attention in your organisation? So thinking about that, because we know that you can't do everything at once. Where members have been focusing, just very quickly on this. So the average actions were 6.4 across members. The text here is really small, so I'm going to give you a quick summary. Basically, where most organisations are focused is stamping out discrimination. And I was really proud to see that come in as number one. And then we've got a focus around role modelling, and we've got a focus around recruitment. 40 members of the Diversity Project are involved with the 10,000 black interns. I think that's amazing. Lots of other programmes as well. But the real thing that came out of the data here was it's around once we get black and ethnic minority talent into our industry, which we're doing well through all of the amazing programs that we have, how do we get that talent then progressed through our organisations? And very lastly, social mobility. So again, a goal here around data, school leaver and graduate recruitment programs, and making sure that every member's focused on at least one. And then for 80% of interns and graduates to have attended a state school for the duration of their secondary education. And again, we're looking for averages here across all member firms. We've had over 50% of members here, so commit to one or more of the goals. A whopping 63 members that are engaged on a recruitment programme, which is amazing. Again, we need to look at the 10.8% in terms of intentions for 2023. But again, I think there's still more work that we need to do as a diversity project in supporting members to adopt the goals. Data disclosure, this was where we had a bit of a bleak picture in that when it comes to social economic data, we're just not where we need to be in terms of providing that option for our employees. But we also know that that's not the fault always of the member firms. Actually, a lot of technology systems, for example, that we've been looking into, don't actually provide the mechanism to collect social economic data. So we know that there's, again, more behind the candelabra here, but a lot more support and interventions around collecting social economic data. And that's one area that we're going to be focused on. Actions, this was, again, a bit of a bleak picture, but we have seen 236 hires made from candidates from a state school. And that was out of a very small population of members as well that are actually able to report on data. So actually that number's going to be a lot bigger. But again, how do we embed social mobility, not just in recruitment and attraction, which is where we're succeeding, but actually how do we empower social economic talent and talent from state schools throughout our organisations? So which of these is a priority for your firm in 2023? And where have members been focusing with social economic diversity? So again, recruitment was the overwhelming. We're really, really good at getting people through the door, or we're getting better at it, certainly. But again, how do we then engage with the work stream? How do we then look at how we progress talent throughout our organisations? So hopefully, this is my last slide. You can see I'm almost out of time here. But there's 3 call to actions that we'd like you to take away today. And you can see those there on the screen. So the first is around sharing the findings from 2022 in your organisations with your stakeholders. We've got loads of passionate people at the Diversity Project, so if you want me or a member of the team to come and share the data with you or your execs, I'm sure we can find somebody to support you with that. Secondly, feedback on which is going to be your firm's focus in 2023. And you can do that by emailing info@thediversityproject.com. And then finally, join our task force. When I say task force, we have a working group that helps us put the framework together. And we're going to be looking at sort of how we interface with the work streams where we can level up actually on the areas that we know we need to improve on. But of course, we need people to do that. So hopefully that gives you a good overview of the 2022 sort of reporting cycle. Again, thank you to everybody. I do want to say a special thank you to Lauren Cahill and Alex Horan, my team, that have been sort of the working force behind helping me deliver this today. Thank you to the workstream leaders for working with us on the tool and giving your inputs into what was in the framework. To the diversity metrics workstream as well, your inputs and your evaluation on the framework was really, really valuable. And certainly you came up with loads of things that we hadn't thought of, which is diversity, I guess, at its best. So on behalf of the Diversity Project, thank you. And I'd like to introduce you, I need to check the person's name, 1 second, don't want to get this wrong. Awkward, hashtag, to Nathan Adams, who's the People Director for Aviva Investors, who's going to present the Diversity Project Awards and provide today's opening remarks. Thank you.